Franny and Zooey by J.D. Salinger, a tale of two siblings contending with issues of authenticity, spirituality, and self. So this is only the second thing that I have ever read by J.D. Salinger, the other thing being perhaps predictably his landmark novel, The Catcher in the Rye, which I thoroughly adored and still do adore. And I have to say, while Franny and Zooey did not impact me quite as forcefully as The Catcher in the Rye did, it is still a roundly excellent work and prime evidence for why J.D. Salinger was such a renowned literary figure in the 20th century. So, Franny and Zooey is basically something of like a fix-up novel, you might could say, comprised of two parts: a short story entitled Franny and a novella entitled Zooey, which are closely related and which taken together form a kind of broader narrative, again like a fix-up novel. So the opening short story, Franny, concerns Franny Glass, who is a college student who has come to meet her boyfriend Lane for lunch, and they're going to go to like a football game and have like a nice little weekend excursion or something like that. But Franny is off put by the vapid superficiality that Lane exhibits, in which she, moreover, kind of views herself as being surrounded by. She is also in possession of a book, a real life book, by the way, entitled The Way of a Pilgrim, which is about a wandering Russian peasant religious aspirant learning to say this prayer, the Jesus prayer, if you are familiar with it, and repetitively in order to kind of enter a heightened spiritual state, which Franny herself is trying to learn to do. And ultimately, Franny is overcome by her circumstances and has something of a nervous breakdown, and then that's the end of that story. And then we come to the novella Zooey, which takes place pretty much immediately following Franny. And it concerns Zooey Glass, Franny's brother, who is an actor and is tasked by their mother with kind of helping Franny in her plight because she is pretty much a hot mess. And there's a lot of conversation, a lot of back and forth. Ultimately, Zooey ends up trying to impersonate their older brother, Buddy, on the phone in order to try to convey some brotherly advice, but Franny kind of sees through the ruse, and so ultimately Zooey just tells her that she's being pretty sanctimonious in her spiritual pursuits. She doesn't really understand the nature of the Jesus prayer or what she's trying to do with it, and that she should not give up her pursuit of acting because she herself has been like an aspiring actress, but that she should do it for the right reasons. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the extent of Franny and Zooey. So let's talk about the technical qualities of the work. So this book is fantastically written, and I knew that J.D. Salinger was, a master writer from reading The Catcher in the Rye, but Franny and Zooey only reinforced that for me because this book is crackerjack in terms of its writing. The dialogue in specific is just marvelously rendered. J.D. Salinger was a real master when it came to dialogue writing, and that is on full display in Franny and Zooey. He also has a real knack for italicizing certain words or portions of certain words to emphasize certain speech, and it feels very true to life to how like people speak with emphasis placed on certain words and like the patterns of speech, the cadence of it. It feels very real, and that is a high compliment. But not just the dialogue, like the actual narration is very strong. It has such a flow to it. It feels, again, like really the work of a master. No complaints here in terms of the writing. This is an excellently written work all around. Now, on to the characters. These characters are quite good. I mean, there's really only two principal characters, that is Franny and Zooey, but they are very well realized. Franny feels, like a young girl who is kind of adrift, wanting more than what life around her seems to present her with. She wants authenticity, realness, connection, right? and everybody around her just seems to be phony and fake. And by the way, phony is a word that was used a lot in The Catcher in the Rye, and it's also used quite a bit in this book as well. It's there's kind of a shared preoccupation with artificiality in both works, but then also Zooey has kind of similar struggles. He is an actor, but he also feels he feels like a freak in his own words. He says that he and Franny are both freaks because that's kind of the way they've been made to be because of their somewhat eccentric family and the kind of educational machinations of their elder siblings. But you can really feel his yearning to really help her in this, and it's conveyed very subtly. And I want to say that for Franny and Zooey as well. This is a real masterclass in subtlety and understatement. And for that matter, The Catcher in the Rye was as well. That book, again, is a masterclass in how to convey things in a not so explicit manner, kind of under the surface. But if you're astute, you'll pick up on it. And that really holds true in Franny and Zooey. A lot of this book consists of conversation, a lot of it kind of inane conversation, and yet under the surface, you can feel a kind of undercurrent of emotion and a lot of pain as well. And there are brief instances when it kind of breaks through to the surface where the kind of banter is dropped, the kind of, again, artifice is dropped, and like a real connection is made, and you can really feel it. It's pretty powerful when that happens. It's the product of someone who definitely knew what they were doing, a master of the craft. So the characters in this book are roundly excellent as well. So now let's talk about the actual like story or stories and the kind of over story which they both taken together comprise. This is a book that is concerned, as I said, with notions of authenticity, and in that it shares quite a bit of subject matter with The Catcher in the Rye, but also spirituality and notions of self and ego. J.D. Salinger was a pretty spiritual guy. He was a real seeker. In fact, I think he basically tried out damn near every religion under the sun at one point or another. He was a person who seemed to be on a kind of a lifelong spiritual quest, and this led him from like Christianity to Buddhism, I think even to like Islam at one point. He was definitely in search of something, and that is a main theme of Franny and Zooey, of these characters who are in a spiritual quest, if you will. And yeah, it's definitely, I think, something that was written from the heart. I think there's some real like kind of autobiographical elements in this to an extent, but also the work is concerned as well with like notions of ego and self, because Franny wants to like kind of she wants to kind of conquer her own ego. She wants to not be a quote unquote selfish person. That's why she initially resigns from the theater, because she doesn't want to aggrandize herself and seek attention and adulation from others. But ultimately, the ultimate conclusion, which kind of forms the resolution of the kind of thematic resolution of the story, occurs when Zooey tells her that that religious ascetics and the kind of monks and devoutes which she is kind of like striving to be like aren't really any less quote unquote selfish than actors and actresses and everyday people. And this is kind of an axiomatic truth. I mean, that is the praxeological law of human nature, that every action is self-motivated. That is, everything that a person does is in pursuit of a value which they as an individual self hold to be dear. And so the content may be different, but the form is ultimately the same. And so Zooey's ultimate advice to Franny is just, be the best you that you can be. Be the actress, but do it for the right reasons. Don't be so sanctimonious about yourself. try to just be the best you that you could be. And I liked that. I thought that was kind of a great little message to have with this book. It's not about sacrificing one's self or ego. And again, that's I don't know that you can even say that that's possible, given again the kind of praxeological law of all human action. But it's more about improving yourself to just be the best you that you can be, and that's where fulfillment ultimately comes from. I like that. I thought it was a neat little bit of advice that is given in this book, and it really kind of resonated with me. So overall, I quite liked Franny and Zooey. In fact, it's a book that I don't really think that I have anything to complain about, honestly. So to rate Franny and Zooey, I guess I'll give it, I suppose, an A, maybe even an A plus. I mean, I feel like The Catcher in the Rye. Like if I'm gonna reserve, like one A plus spot for J.D. Salinger, it would probably go to that. But this book gets either an A or maybe even an A plus in its own right. It is a book which is the work of, again, just a master author, a master of the craft, and that's very apparent. It's very palpable when reading it. It's a book that has some real heart to it. That's the thing. That's the thing about J.D. Salinger, is that like his books had real heart to them. Like The Catcher in the Rye is like, I mean, if you read that book at the right time, and if you're in the same headspace as that book, it hits like a damn train. And Franny and Zooey also has quite a bit of emotion to it. Like it's a book that is very full of heart, and I really like that. I really do. I think it's a great book. So yeah, A from me, maybe even an A plus. I don't know. It's just a great book. I really enjoyed it, and it serves as a reminder of why J.D. Salinger's name is held in such regard. So yeah, Franny and Zooey, have you read this book? If you have, let me know down in the comments what you thought about it, whether you have agreed or disagreed with anything I've said about it here today. And if you haven't read Franny and Zooey, I could definitely recommend this, especially if you are like me and you've read like The Catcher in the Rye but never read anything else by J.D. Salinger. Pick this up because it shares, as I've said, some thematic preoccupations with that book, and so it will be kind of familiar already, but it's just a great book in its own right. It really is. And J.D. Salinger was not just a one hit wonder. The Catcher in the Rye may be the most famous thing, and it may be probably the best thing that he ever wrote. But that's not at all to say that he didn't write other quality works. And Franny and Zooey is a prime example of a great book of his other than The Catcher in the Rye. So I definitely could recommend this. And as always, if you have enjoyed anything you've seen or heard here today, remember to hit that like button and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, peace.